The Earthshakers, a speculative narrative of the ultimate hunt. The sun hung low over the horizon, a bleeding wound in the sky that painted the vast arid grasslands in shades of violent orange and bruised purple. It was the height of the dry season. The earth was cracked, resembling a shattered mosaic of baked clay, and the air shimmered with a heat that distorted the distance. In this unforgiving landscape, silence was usually a sign of danger, but today, the silence was broken not by the roar of a predator, but by a sound that was felt before it was heard. It was a rhythmic thrumming, a deep bass frequency that traveled through the soles of the paws, vibrating up through the bones of the pride. Sarabi, the matriarch of the Southern Pride, lifted her head, her ears, tattered from a decade of territory wars and hunts, swiveled forward. She was a master of the savannah, a tactician of the highest order who had brought down buffalo, giraffe, and even young elephants. But the vibration coming through the ground today was alien. It was heavier than an elephant, yet the gait was different. It was a rolling thunder that promised a creature of immense scale. The pride was hungry. It had been 3 days since their last kill. A small impala that barely offered a mouthful to the 3 large males and the 7 lionesses that made up the core of the group. Hunger was a sharp ache in their bellies, a constant driver that sharpened their senses to a razor's edge. Sarabi stood, her muscles rippling under the coat. She let out a low, chuffing sound, a command that brought the other lionesses to their feet. The males, massive beasts with manes like dark storm clouds, rose more slowly, their golden eyes narrowing as they gazed into the haze. They sensed it too. Something massive was approaching. As the heat haze parted, the silhouette emerged. It was a mountain of a creature, a relic out of time. The woolly mammoth stood over 11 feet tall at the shoulder, a towering fortress of muscle and fur. Unlike the elephants the lions knew, this beast was draped in a thick, shaggy coat of brown hair that swayed with every step. Its tusks were not straight spears, but massive, curving scimitars of ivory that twisted outward and back in, capable of sweeping aside entire fallen trees. The scent hit the lions a moment later. It was a musk, ancient and pungent, smelling of damp earth, crushed pine, and raw powder.
The lion's claws are
that
sharp,
triggered a
but the
primal
mammoth's
caution in the
dense,
This was
matted
prey,
wool
yes,
proves an
but it was prey
impenetrable
that commanded
barrier.
respect.
With the rise of the
pride did
moon,
not rush.
the
To
advantage
rush
shifts
a creature of this
decisively to the
magnitude was
predators,
suicide. Instead,
whose
they
eyes
began
pierce
the
the
dance they
veil
knew
of
so well.
night.
They fanned out. Sarabi took the center, her gaze locked on the behemoth. Flanking her were her sisters, Nala and Kia, hunters of exceptional speed. The males, usually reserved for the final takedown or territory defense, knew that their weight would be needed today. They moved to the rear, trailing the beast, cutting off its retreat. The mammoth, an old bull separated from his herd during a temporal anomaly of nature, stopped, his small ears twitched. His trunk, a dexterous muscular appendage covered in coarse hair, rose into the air, sniffing the wind. He smelled them. The scent of predator was universal. He let out a trumpet blast that shattered the air, a sound so loud it physically hurt the lion's ears. It was a warning. I see you. I am death. The hunt had begun. The lions utilized the tall, dry grass, flattening their bodies until they were invisible ghosts. They moved only when the mammoth moved, freezing when he stopped. They needed to test him. They needed to know if this mountain could be toppled. Kia was the first to run. She burst from the cover of a termite mound, sprinting toward the mammoth's left flank. It was a feint, a mock charge designed to see how the beast reacted. The reaction was terrifyingly fast. Despite his bulk, the mammoth spun with shocking agility. His trunk lashed out like a whip. Kia, anticipating a slower turn, barely scrambled out of the way as the heavy trunk cracked against the ground where she had been a split second before. Dust exploded into the air. If that blow had connected, it would have shattered her spine. The lions regrouped mentally. This was not a buffalo that would stand in panic. This was a warrior. The thick fur presented a problem. Their claws, designed to hook into the hide of zebra and wildebeest, struggled to find purchase in the dense, matted wool that covered They would need to target the vulnerable points, the legs, the trunk, and the underbelly. Night began to fall, offering the lions their greatest advantage. Their night vision was superior, while the mammoth would be reliant on smell and hearing. Under the cover of darkness, the pride tightened the noose. Sarabi initiated the second phase. She signaled the males. The three brothers, the heavyweights of the pride, roared in unison. The sound was a weapon, designed to induce panic and confusion. The mammoth trumpeted back, stomping the ground, his massive pillar-like legs shaking the earth. He was agitated now, turning in circles, trying to keep all the threats in view. This was the moment. Nala and two other lionesses launched themselves at the mammoth's rear legs. They avoided the sweeping tusks and leapt, sinking their claws deep into the shaggy hair. They bit down, trying to sever the massive tendons at the hock. The mammoth roared in pain and fury. He kicked out, a backward thrust that sent one lioness tumbling through the air. She landed hard, ribs cracking, but the others held on. Their weight was the weapon. They were anchors, dragging the beast down, slowing his movements. Sarabi saw the opening. With the mammoth distracted by the attackers on his rear, she and the remaining females targeted the flanks. They leaped, scrambling up the side of the beast like it was a tree. The fur was thick, choking their mouths. They found the skin beneath. They raked their claws, creating deep lacerations that began to bleed, slicking the fur with juice. The mammoth was a storm of motion. He shook his body violently, dislodging two lionesses. He swung his head, the massive curved tusks acting as a scythe. One of the males, moving in to attack the throat, miscalculated. The ivory tusk caught him in the shoulder, tossing him 10 feet away as if he were a ragdoll. The lion roared in agony, dragging himself away from the battle, out of the fight. But the pride was relentless. They were a hive mind, a single entity driven by survival. As one fell back, another took its place. They were tired. The mammoth's breathing became labored, heavy wheezing sounds that echoed in the night. The blood loss from a dozen wounds was beginning to take its toll, and the sheer exertion of fighting off 600 pounds of cat attached to his body was exhausting. The turning point came when the mammoth
future
tried to
generation
charge.
learning
He
the
attempted
lesson
to
of
break
the
the
hunt.
circle, to run through the line of lions, but the weight dragging on his hind legs was too great. He stumbled. His front left knee buckled, hitting the dirt with a ground-shaking thud. It was the signal the males had been waiting for. The two remaining brothers, seeing the head lower as the beast stumbled, saw their target, the throat. It was protected by thick folds of skin and hair, but it was the only way to end this. The largest male, a scarred veteran known as Brutus, launched himself. He didn't go for the legs or the flank. He went for the trunk. He clamped his jaws onto the muscular appendage, wrestling it down. The mammoth screamed, a sound of pure distress. With the trunk pinned, the beast could not use its primary weapon. Simultaneously, Sarabi and Nala abandoned the flanks and went for the neck. They bit into the windpipe, clamping down with a pressure of 1,000 pounds per square inch. They held on, their bodies dangling, ignoring the thrashing, ignoring the dust, ignoring the risk of being crushed. The mammoth fought with the strength of the ancients. He tried to stand, lifting 3 lions with him, but his strength was failing. The oxygen was being cut off. The world was going dark in the Titan. His struggles became weaker.
The
The
next
chaotic
challenge
thrashing
for
turned
the
into
pride.
spasmodic twitches. Slowly, agonizingly, the great beast
The
collapsed.
war
It didn't fall like a
never
tree.
ends.
It slumped like a collapsing building, settling onto the earth with a final, massive exhalation. The dust settled around them. The pride did not let go immediately. They held their grip for minutes, ensuring the life had truly left the mountain. Only when the rhythmic thrumming of the giant heart stopped did Sarabi release her hold. She stood panting, her chest heaving, her face masked in blood and dust. Around her, the pride was battered. One lioness was limping badly. A male was tending to a deep gash on his shoulder. They were exhausted, pushed to the absolute limit of their endurance. But they had won. They stood atop the fallen Titan, the moonlight illuminating the scene. It was a feast that would sustain them for a week. It was a victory that would be etched into the genetic memory of the pride they had taken down the impossible. Sarabi looked at the massive curved tusk, now silent and still. She let out a low growl, not of aggression,